I just got back from a trip on the Queen of Cowichan, one of the most overlooked BC ferries, but it definitely was a trip to remember, and today I'm gonna see how the ship ranks on my little list of BC ferries. But first, what happened after last video? Well, first we stayed in the Empress Hotel in Victoria, which is a very nice hotel and I do definitely recommend it, although it can be a bit more on the expensive side. It's a very historic hotel, so I'm glad I got to stay there. For that day, we mainly just explored around Victoria, and I got a tour of the BC Capitol building. Probably the most beautiful Parliament building in all of Canada, and it was a really nice experience. On top of that, we also saw the MV Swell, a little tugboat converted into a cruise ship, and is actually the world's smallest cruise ship. But all things eventually come to an end, and we hopped on the Queen of Cowichan to head back home. Now, let's start the tour. Starting down from the front bridge here, it really does not look windy in this video, but it definitely is. You can see some stairs here going down to another area that's in front, but I will say that if you're on the side here at the deck or on the front, it will be very windy. Going along the deck here, we see this glass little enclosed area, which is an area for you to sit and avoid the wind. This is used to embark passengers occasionally, and is sometimes used to board lifeboats too. Back here we have the tables, which are more like lunch tables, and you see this a lot on BC ferries. There is the funnel, which is basically the same as the Oak Bay and a lot of the C-Class. You will actually see a lot of similarities if you've watched my Oak Bay video. Going back along here, you can see the aft little enclosed seating area, which is actually much smaller than the one in front. But what I find funny is that there's supposed to be a little curtain put over here to avoid it catching wind, but it definitely is catching wind on this voyage, which is strange. Moving over here, you have some of the rigid hull inflatable boats. These will be used in case of a man overboard or an abandoned ship. Here is the mast, which I usually see a pretty interesting phenomenon of the front mast having the Canadian flag, and then the back mast having the BC and BC Ferries flags. But I do also find that on the single-end ships, they often have the Canada flag at the back, meaning that for this voyage, we're sailing backwards. Anyways, going on to here, you have these aft viewing areas, which down there it's a lot less windy than up here. But anyways, moving along the back under the aft bridge, you can see some stairs going down to the lower deck, but they're actually closed for some reason. Now that lower deck isn't closed, but the stairs are closed. It's very, very strange. Another interesting strange thing is this structure. It's apparently an office mixed with an elevator shaft, but it really does look like it was just added on here randomly, though it does have a very nice area under it to just stand and watch the outside if it's raining or something. Going back into that aft seating area, there is a door to the inside aft of the ship. Through here are some bathrooms and a lot of ads on the wall, and down here is the passenger deck. It says passenger deck 5, but there really is only one passenger deck on this ship, and one outdoor area. Anyways, this is the main seating area, the largest seating area in the ship, and also one with one of the coolest views, because you have some seats here that allow you to look out the back, and it was a pretty nice day as we were sailing. I should mention the ship was leaning over to one side, but wasn't that big of an issue. I can climb up mountains. Back here is the Chief Steward's office, which is where you ask for stuff like a bridge tour, which you can get, but I wouldn't recommend annoying them about it. Passing over the kids zone, we go over to this little lifeboat evacuation area, which keep in mind where those are when you're on the ship. You can also see in this footage the ship leaning a little bit, or get a sense of it. It was a little bit annoying, but anyways, passing through here in this interesting aisled seating area where there's like 2 rows of seats. Passing over here, you have the Passages gift shop and also the Coastal Cafe Express. This is where you go if you don't want to get some big foods and stuff. Anyways, Passages on this ship actually had a pretty good selection. Not a good selection of BC Ferries stuff, may I add, but a good selection of stuff. Anyways, Going over here, you have more lifeboat and lifeboat evacuation things, and you go into this other area with a completely different style of seating, and over here, the windows are actually good quality and aren't weirdly tinted. Anyways, also, this footage is not exaggerated with the leaning. This is literally how it looked. It's apparently a design feature, as I asked the crew about it, and they said that one side is fuel tanks and anchors, so that's why it's leaning over. Anyways, passing through here, you also have the Coastal Cafe. This is sort of the main dining room of the ship. It has a lot more food selections than Express, and that's why it's not called Express. But anyways, going through here, it's pretty big, has a good amount of stuff, but I'll go a bit more into depth about what I ate when I go and review it. Although, I forgot to get a photo of what I ate, so apologies. It's also this little inner seating area to accommodate more people. And going over here, there's, again, more seating, because BC Ferries is mostly just seating, but look at these windows. They're weirdly tinted and, like, distorted. Anyways, Queen of Cowichan sign, but yeah, those windows are a weird choice, and I don't know why they even still have them over at this section. Anyways, passing over these bar tables, you have the aft area, or the front areas to look out at the ship, and one side was closed on this voyage, and I later found that that's because that's where passengers disembark when you're not going on a, car. Anyways, speaking of outdoor areas, this is the other side of the outdoor area. It's pretty good, has some views, although you can't see it, but I am clenching the hood of my thing, acting like I'm hiking uphill, and basically fighting against the wind in order for me to be able to move. But it's got some nice views, and it was so cool going out onto this deck. I wish the Oak Bay had an outdoor area like this, but alas, it does not, although it is equally as windy on the Oak Bay. Contrary to its symmetrical design, there is actually other things on this side. And you do have a small dining room, seating area, and workstations, which there's not many of them on the Cowichan, but they're good enough and they do what they're meant to do anyways. Anyways, passing over here, you have the starfish staircases. I am scratching at the bottom of the barrel for things to point out, and more lifebelt areas, which are a very interesting area, but this door was rattling a lot during the voyage. And I did not like that. It was very annoying. Anyways, going over here, you have these little beige seats or whatever, a bit different from the other side, and the end of the passage's gift shop. Although, now that I think of it, this pretty much is just the same side that we came up on. Anyways, you can see a little glimpse of the kid zone there, the elevators, and, well, that basically ends the tour for the ship. I did actually get to go on the bridge a little bit later after asking, and it was really cool, although it was basically just like the Oak Bay's bridge. Then, after that, it was basically just a pretty typical ride. Well, typical as going on the bridge could be, but either way, it was a very scenic route, and the end over here is the most scenic part, which kinda sucks because passenger vehicles have to get back to where they are, and usually it doesn't have the best view. With that, let's get into the history of this ship. Launched in early 1976, the Queen of Cowichan was the second of 5 C-Class ferries built over 6 years at BC Ferries. At the time, these ferries provided a modern improvement to ferry travelers, and a needed increase in fleet-wide capacity. Built at a cost of around $20 million, the C-Class ferries were initially placed on the Tsawwassen to Schwartz Bay route. However, most of the Cowichan's service life has been on Horseshoe Bay Nanaimo and Horseshoe Bay Langsdale ever since. The ship is 139 meters long, 27 meters wide, and can go around 22 knots, carrying about 1,466 passengers and 362 cars. In late 2003, the Queen of Cowichan received an extensive refit at the Vancouver shipyards, giving it a new livery. In addition to a lot of engine work and steel replacement, the ferry also acquired a new evacuation system, which is still in place today, and a complete overhaul of passenger accommodations. In 1985, should have mentioned this earlier, Queen of Cowichan hit a small pleasure craft near Horseshoe Bay. 3 people on the vessel were killed. This would actually come back to bite the crew of the Queen of the North, after Lilgert thought that they were going to run over a ship and was too distracted trying to find the boat when they hit a rock and sank, killing 2 people. Also, apparently, Queen of Cowichan became the only ship to actually call a mayday from the terminal before even departing, though I can't find when this actually happened, but it's the only BC ferry to do that since. Now let's actually rank the ship, from food, ship, and experience. Still a bit strange to rank a single day ship on these, but whatever, it's my video. Anyways, food. Food is pretty good. Coastal Cafe had good selection, as they did on the other ships I was in. My only real problem with it was just that there was a big line, but I ended up just getting a Rice Krispie Square because that's really all I needed at that point. We had already had lunch from someone, and so we weren't really that hungry, but the food was pretty good, and I also tried some Fuse iced tea, which is kind of the Nestea replacement. It's not that good. So, I'll give it probably a 5 out of 10. Whereas for the ship, it was pretty good. I mean, very similar to the Queen of Oak Bay, though, is my biggest issue. There wasn't really a lot, and also one of the sections on the outdoor area was closed off. And what I still question is just, why was the staircases closed off, but the area that it led to was perfectly open to the public? I can't reason with that. I don't know what's going on with that. So I'm just gonna give the ship a 6 out of 10. Sorry, not a good review. Anyways, as for the experience, well, it's quite a bit better actually. I would say that with the experience of having a relatively good scenery, calm waters, and going on the bridge, but also having it lean to one side, and it being very windy, I'm probably going to rank it a 7 out of 10. Because that's kinda just how I think of it. Unfortunately for the ship, that does not bear good for its ranking. That means that the Queen of Cowichan was the lowest rated BC Ferries trip I have taken, 18 out of 30. With the Spirit of British Columbia beating it, and the Oak Bay and New West being the best. But I still feel bad whenever I rank these ships, just because I really don't feel like it deserves that ranking, but that's what the numbers add up to, so that's what it is. However, I should say that if the crew were here, it would be a 10 out of 10, so good on them, but overall, there's just a few little things that make this a bit worse, and have made it, sadly, the worst BC Ferries trip I've taken. So, why did it ram that boat over? Why did it call a mayday at the port? And still, for the love of God, why are those stairs closed? It's a very good question.